All right, good afternoon or evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, being the first session with the Model United Nations MOOC. I'm really happy and excited to see the students already joining. Please note that we are starting at 5 p.m. Central African time, not 6 p.m. Normally, that was my mistake. Sorry, guys. 5 p.m. I'm used to being at 6 p.m. So anyway, I just want to quickly check if Dr. Chetty is with us yet. I haven't seen him joining us yet. Maybe I should just give him a few more minutes, then I will quickly just ask him to join. Let's quickly see if I can get him online. I can see he is online. But anyway, so I hope you guys are interested and excited. I know we've been receiving quite a number of emails asking when is this starting. You guys are very excited about it, and we're really grateful for that as well. Please note that your mics are muted, guys. That's just your microphone, which means it's incoming sound to the actual meeting. So we've done that to make sure that nobody interrupts us as we go along, because you know sometimes when people join meetings, the mics are open and it makes it a little bit difficult. So just to hand over to Dr. Chetty, who's going to do the welcoming for us, and then we're going to hand over to Mr. Keshav Gupta, who's going to run with the session this evening. So over to you, Dr. Chetty.
Thank you so much, David. A very good evening to all our students that are joining us today, and I'll present Keshav Gupta as well. Thank you, colleagues, for joining us, and it's really a exciting part of the session for us at the University of South Africa, where we have this particular Model UN MOOC that will focus on climate change and green technology specifically. Now, as you know, that part of our agenda within the institution is to really firstly push the open agenda in terms of our open causes, but also to advance the SDGs within the university. And this particular MOOC will advance an SDG, which is critical for us in terms of the institution, in terms of climate change. But in addition to that, I think what's an important part for us to consider is the critical skills that are being developed as part of this offering, in a sense that you are able to understand what it means to lobby a cause or a call for action at a UN itself. Secondly, is also to think about critically engaging with social matters that impacts us in our own African continent, in our own South African context. And when you look at the amount of young people that are now basically advancing or serving as advocacy for key social resources, climate change resources, economic resources, political as well, it creates an ideal space for us in the South African context, and even you as a young student cohort, to think about how you can advance and capitalize on your own voice as part of a new generation that is emerging. So we're really looking forward to this MOOC over the next few days, and I'm hoping that you also enjoy this and get the critical skills that you need as part of this. So with that said, thank you so much, David. I wish all the students a good journey ahead, and I hope that it's a fulfilling one, and I hope that it's also an engaged one. So as they might have mentioned earlier, please do feel free to use the chat and your comments and your emoticons. It's always good to see the interactivity, and I know that this is going to be a good session. Also to Keshav, thank you so much, Keshav, for facilitating this and also leading our students into a critical space in terms of developing their own voice on critical social issues as well. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you, Dr. Chetty. And once more, thank you, students, for joining us. Please take note, as I was saying, your microphones are muted from our side, which basically means you can't make any noise that we can hear. And same with your cameras. We've just put them off so that we can share or save as much data as we can, because we know data gets eaten very quickly with Teams. So that's why. So don't be surprised. If you do have any sound problems, please make sure you check your device's volume settings. Maybe just run a YouTube video or something just to make sure it's working, and or just exit and rejoin the meeting. Sometimes that can also solve the problem. Of course, if it's a slow network, then that one's a bit tricky. We won't be able to sort of help you on that one. But further without ado, I'm going to hand over to Keshav, and I'm going to then run the presentation from my side, Keshav. So you just tell me when to switch to the next slide. And guys, I hope you're going to enjoy this, and I'll be back a little bit later just to show you the course content, where to access it from, how to log in, and also how to deal with the activities as well. So over to you, Keshav.
Thank you so much, David, and good evening to everyone from India. I'm just so happy to finally be starting this whole course. And before I begin, special thanks to Denzel Chetty and the whole UNISA team for enabling us to convert this Model UN into a MOOC, and to all of you who have joined in today, and whoever will be viewing the recordings also later on. This is a very exciting moment, as Denzel had talked about. And before I even begin the Model UN training, I want to just talk about the importance of this year, 2024, because 2024 is when, since the World War II concluded and the UN started, we are at the most number of conflicts around the world. Climate change in itself is at the highest level, and we are seeing its impacts in every continent. Inequalities are high, and that is why even the United Nations itself this month is meeting in the Summit of the Future to determine its own future. So, the voice of young people like yourselves, like all of us, is extremely important. So, that is why this Model UN MOOC becomes extremely critical, and the timing of this MOOC. And I hope that the launch video that also underscored important points regarding the launch itself. You have all gone through it. The team had already emailed you those links. Okay. So while we get started, can I please ask everyone to also be? I will also be monitoring the chat as I speak. So it will be great to hear from you on the chat. If we can just, if you want to just share very briefly about who you are or where you're from or why you're here in the course, what's your motivation. It will be great to start hearing from all of you in the chat. And I hope that we are able to move past some of these technology and maybe at some point also meet in the future. All right. So let's begin. If David, we can move to the next slide, please. Okay, so there are two critical things that will be the focus of our presentation, of our discussion today. One is introducing all of you at a very basic level to what the Model UN is all about. What are the key concepts involved in the Model UN, key processes, and most importantly, then we will discuss about the United Nations. United Nations and also what constitutes the UN, which is nations themselves. So that is the two areas of focus that we will be discussing today, and David will be of course showcasing the platform to you, where all the quizzes etc. are also placed. So that is what we will be doing. Our key session objectives today is to acquire this basic understanding and then to build foundational knowledge of the UN and conceptual understanding of a nation. And once again, I'm mentioning to you that you are the important leader in this whole session. So, your engagement with us through the chat and your sharing of perspectives on the chat is something that will enrich the session quite a lot. And I will be taking your thoughts and your questions from the chat into the discussion as well. So, please do actively engage with our chat. All right. So can we please move to the next slide, David? Thank you. Before we begin our session, the main session, there are certain expectation settings that we would like to do with each other. And that is that while we do this session, uh, what I expect from you is that we all of us are firstly, as the slide says, present, which means that we are here, we are attentive at all points in time. We are intentional. We are intentional with purposeful actions. I think this is very important because what we're trying to do together is also going to have a potentially positive impact on the climate battle that we are all fighting together. Respectful. Being respectful is the cornerstone of diplomacy. Being respectful is the cornerstone of any dialogue. And during the entire MOOC, not just today, but throughout the journey, we will be hearing a lot of diverse opinions. So, respect, mutual respect, and agreeing to disagree with each other wherever there are disagreements will be the cornerstone. So, I hope that we are able to do that. Reflective. Quite a few of these discussions that we will have. especially about the values of the UN, on how we would like to shape our own version of a diplomat. It needs a lot of reflection. So I hope that that all of us can reflect individually as well as together on these issues. Moving further, aspirational. We are all here to not only grow personally with skills, as Denzel had mentioned that we are going to acquire, but also we have to be aspirational about the role of young people at the UN, the role of young people in this climate, in combating climate change. So that is extremely important. Happy and active. I think all of this is supposed to be extremely important. Is our own happiness, our own joy, because if we are joyful, we can do that with our community, with everyone around us, and we all want this to be a joyful learning experience for all of us. Authentic. I think it's very important that we all are we all stay authentic. We all respect each other's opinions, but we also are able to be ourselves, give our perspectives. Okay, so that's my request, and accepting, as I said, like respectful. That I think respectful is one thing, but uh, being accepting, being embracing, accommodating, and open-minded helps in developing collaborations. And I think without collaborations, the UN itself is not possible. And these are some of the values that we would really like all of us to follow together. I already see um, a message in the chat. I thank you so much for introducing yourself. And thank you, all of you who are already now starting to introduce yourself. I love the fact that you're passionate about innovative solutions to global challenges, and your passion to again contribute to the United Nations and its mandate. So thank you, and please do continue to communicate via chat. This is an exciting thing already that we are seeing in the chat. So I encourage and thank all of you once again. Let's move further, please. Okay, so now moving to our first discussion. The first discussion of today's session will be on, as I said, introducing Model UN. And there are 5 things that I will be introducing to you. We will first do a quick overview of what a Model UN is all about. After that, we will be discussing what are the kind of benefits that one can drive out of participating in a Model UN. We will discuss what are the different kind of roles that we see youth fulfilling in a model UN. And then we will be seeing certain important terms that we generally come across. And finally, we will discuss, just get a quick overview of how the discussion dialogue evolves, which is what we call as the flow of debate in a model UN. So these are some of the things that we will be starting with. Now, moving to the overview. So, what is Model UN? I think that is extremely important to begin with. And it sets a very common context. In a nutshell, if I were to describe Model UN to you, it is a simulation of the proceedings of the UN. That means that we all hear about how the United Nations discusses things, wherein member states, which are countries representing countries that are a part of the United Nations, and they are putting forward their points through what we call as diplomats or ambassadors. These discussions of the UN are emulated and simulated at a level of an educational institution for young people, where young people play the roles of ambassadors, diplomats, civil society, or any other stakeholder in finding solutions to the contemporary problems. So that is what happens. And let me take a quick example. And again, like I said, it's a very important time because in another week or so, the UN General Assembly will actually commence its own discussions in New York. So imagine that we have the issue of climate change, and we have the United Nations General Assembly discussing that issue. How that usually happens is that countries come prepared with their remarks, in which they talk about what they are doing, what kind of challenges they are facing, what do they need from other countries, and from the UN itself. And then over the course of the entire duration, we hear from these countries and they try to collaborate with each other and create solutions. So the students are playing the roles of those representatives in a model UN, and then they try to come out with solutions. Now, to have that process, the aim of a model UN is to create a dialogue, a collaborative environment with young people so that they can solve global issues. So that is what a model UN, in a sense, is trying to do. Model UN has emerged as an extremely important tool to build essential 21st century skills because this is one of the fewest, I'd say, activities which in itself very comprehensively challenges each of us to utilize critical thinking, empathy, creativity, problem solving, public speaking skills, and debating